All right, this is the third video in the experiment analysis series. We're going to pick up at a place we were at in either the first video or the second video, where we've matched on the experiment exposure event. We've limited ourselves to the top movies XP experiment. We've pulled the variant off of that event and put it on the entire sequence. We filtered down to just people in the experiment, the matched people. And then we replaced the prefix, anything before the match, so before the experiment, with null. We've commented out the first analysis. I'm going to comment out the second analysis. Now, in this video, we want to understand kind of the paths that people are taking with this change, adding the top movies experience. So we're going to conduct our analysis at the session level. So I'm going to begin by sessionizing. I have that code right up above, but I'll just use Copilot again to add sessions with an hour gap between. And then we're going to use a last touch attribution. This is in the attribution video. If you go back, I'll go through it in detail. But basically, we're looking for the key place that someone discovered the movie they were going to watch. And so we have a few choices on that. So we're going to create a tag, and then we're going to use parentheses to pick the events inside that are eligible. So one of them is homepage. Then we'll use the pipe operator to say or, and choose search page. And we'll or again and choose favorites page. Oops. And we'll or again, continue watching, and then finally the new experience, the top movies page. And then from there, the user can do anything or nothing, and then a watch start. Okay, so this isn't quite last touch attribution. We might see in some of these records that a person will, well, let's see. They can go to search and then maybe go back and go to favorites or something like that. So we really want to limit ourselves to patterns where the user, homepage click, and then top movies page, and then ultimately to movie page, top movies again. So this isn't the last touch. So we basically need to make sure this star, anything in between the last touch and the watch start, is not one of these things. So we're going to take those same choices and we're going to put them in parentheses with the negation operator, which is the caret. And take those same movies, and now we need to separate them with comma because now they're ors basically between these things, or they're ands. Okay, so now in order to match, you need to go to the home page or search or favorites or continue watching or top movies, and then you can go to anything as long as it's not home page, search page, favorites page, continue watching or top movies, and then watch start. So now we've really forced that last touch. It has to be one of these attributable things that happened right before the watch start. Now, right now we're still doing this at the session level. It's possible someone will watch more than one movie a session. We talked about binging users, so we're going to do a match split here. And that'll just make sure for every watch start or every time this pattern occurs within a session, we're actually getting multiple rows for that. So now our data is divided by session and then again by every watch start, attributable watch start event. Okay, now that we have our last touch attributions, we want to compare between treatment and control. So I'm going to go over to the plot. And then on the x-axis, I'm going to choose the last touch. So that's the last page they went to, the attributable source. And I'm going to choose the name of that page. And then I have count star, so I'm getting the counts there. And then I'm going to group by the variant. So now I'll see counts for both sides. And then on the x-axis, I can choose sort and y descending. So that'll make the largest y value first. So it's just more pleasant to read that way. So we see that in treatments in orange, controls in blue, continue watching increased slightly in the treatment. Well, that's pretty interesting. If people are more likely to watch the thing they're already watching, that's interesting. Search page drops catastrophically in the treatment, and top movies page increases, dramatically, and that makes sense because the experiment was about top movies page. It was launching that feature, so users in control wouldn't have had this opportunity. I'm going to normalize this so I can see as a share of all. I'm going to include null values just in case there's some of those. All right, so continue watching actually went down when we normalize it. So there were just more of these watch start events in the treatment. That's what we saw in the last analysis or in the first analysis. So continue watching went down. Search page went way down. Top movies page went up in the treatment. Home page went down and favorites went down. So basically almost 32% of watch starts began from the top movies page in treatment. This is a huge cannibalization of behavior. We've shifted people from, basically not using, not having top movies page to making it almost the dominant source of discovery. So this is a very successful launch, I think, at least if we're okay with these side effects. Specifically, a big cannibalization of search. So people are using way less search and using way more top movies. And, we saw in some of the early videos how problematic search was in terms of adding time to watch start and things like that. Failed searches leading to failure to continue a session. So this feels like a big win. And it takes a little bit away from favorites, homepage, and continue watching, but mostly cannibalizes from search. One more thing we want to look at is over in barcode. This shows the typical paths that our users are following. If I go to the compare feature, I can choose to compare on variant, and this is going to compare our control and treatment groups on the paths they take through our app. Now, these are colored by statistical significance, so the p-value will set the intensity of the color. This one's going to be prefix, which is just the difference in the size of the prefix for control and treatment. This is a little bit confusing, but because we did a match split, the prefix is everything that occurred before the first match split. And it looks like that's more common in the treatment group, that there's more events before the next split, or before the first split. So that might be interesting to dig into, that for some reason the treatment group is slightly larger. We know that control and treatment were balanced, so we wouldn't expect this. And then here, blue's going to be more common in control, continue watching, search page, home page, and favorites page are more common in control, and that's what we saw in the plot. And top movies page is much more common in treatment. So this is, kind of a different way of seeing the same result we saw in plot. But what's interesting here will be to look at the things deeper down. And so after homepage, there's an increase in use of the favorites page for people in the treatment group. And now that's interesting if, this is across all attributions. So if they're using favorites more, that could be really interesting. And then homepage click, they're choosing things on the homepage more often. That's interesting too. And then let's see, down here, watch heartbeat. Here, search page. Okay, so it's more common in the control group to go from homepage to search. We know we took away a lot of search, and then search results. But going back to search page from search results is more common if you're in the treatment group. So this idea of maybe, when control, your first search was more likely to be successful because maybe the top movies were the things you were looking for. But we've removed that sort of low-hanging fruit. And now when you're in search on the treatment side, you're having to go back to search and research again. So the low-hanging fruit is gone, and now search is maybe a little more challenging in the treatment group. And we're seeing that here in the patterns. So you definitely need to stay tuned for the fourth video in the experiment analysis section. We go and look at every sequence pattern. So you can really see, you can sort of discover where these differences occur. But the barcode is a great way to start that process. So just to summarize, we have our experiment definition up here and the sessionization that we added for this analysis. We did last touch attribution, a lot like the attribution video. We looked at, in the plot, the shift from the discovery page that someone was using from treatment and control. And then we went and looked at the barcode to see the differences in a kind of a broader effect on the sequences. I hope that helps.